We're going to take a look at StrataScratch 10303, a Netflix SQL interview question marked as hard, and it's called Top Percentile Fraud. Let's get into it. So let's take a look at what we have here. Top Percentile Fraud. ABC Corp is a mid-sized insurer in the US, and in the recent past, their fraudulent claims have increased significantly for their personal auto insurance portfolio. So dealing with an insurance company. They have developed a ML-based predictive model to identify propensity of fraudulent claims. Basically, how likely these claims are to be fraud. Now they assign highly experienced claim adjusters for top 5 percentile of claims identified by the model. So they want senior employees or external people which are very qualified to look at these most fraudulent claims based on what the ML model says. Your objective is to identify the top 5 percentile of claims from each state. Your output should be policy number, state, claim cost, and fraud score. So basically our task is we work at an insurance company who deal with auto insurances. There's a lot of fraud going on. Someone developed an ML model which tells you how likely a claim is to be fraud, and we want to get a list of the top 5% of fraudulent claims per state and assign these to people, actual real humans who look at these manually and decide whether it's a fraud or not. That's our task. Let's get into it by looking at the data we get served here. So if we preview the fraud score table, it just has 4 columns: policy number, state, which is important, claim cost, and fraud score. So fraud score is what the ML model came up with. State is what we need to group by. And I think these are the most important things. We should still output all 4 of these, just filter it to the top 5% of each state pretty much. So for this question, I've mentioned top 5%. You should know what a percentile is and how to come up with it. I think that's not the most likely use case, and I don't see this often in interview questions about asking about percentiles, but you should know that there are functions that help you calculate percentiles in SQL and in your SQL dialect. We're going to use PostgreSQL. There's multiple ways of doing this. I'll go through them, but let's start here. So percentile, if you don't know exactly what it is or you need a reminder, if you take a test and you're in the 90th percentile or at the 90th percentile, you scored better than 90% of people on that test. So you might get a 97 out of 100 on that test, but 90% of people were lower than your score. That makes you be at the 90th percentile. So you're in the top 10%, so to say, or at that mark. So for this one, we want to find the 95th percentile, and that way, say 95% of the claims are lower than the score we have, and that way we filter out the bottom 95% and get the top 5%. So all we need to do is to calculate either the threshold or the 95th percentile, or get the percentage rank and calculate that for each fraud score and see if it's higher than 0.95 or the other way around, say that it's lower than 0.05 to say it's in the top 5%. That might be a bit confusing. I'm just going to go into it and you'll see what I mean. So let's just select star for now from that table fraud score. This is a hard one after all, but I don't think it's that hard. You just need to know how to come up with percentiles. So we're not just going to select star, we're also going to try to come up with a percent rank function that's going to calculate how high our fraud score is for that state. For that, we're going to have to use a window function. There are several to use to solve this question. I think percent rank is the most elegant one. So we're going to have our standard syntax of window function, then over, and in parentheses partition by, order by. Let's call that R for percent rank or rank. Okay, and this percent rank is going to give us a value that tells us for our fraud score how high that ranks in terms of percentage. So we're going to get a rank for that fraud score, and if it's 3 out of 100, it's going to be top 3%. If it's 5 out of 100, it's top 5%. It basically calculates how high that rank is for your entire list. And for us, it's based on a state, so we're going to partition by state to calculate this percent rank for each state, because that's what we're tasked with, get the top 5% for each state. And we're going to order by fraud score. That's what we base this entire thing on. That's how our list is ordered. The highest one should be on top, so we're going to order by fraud score in descending order. Okay, I think this is enough for us to get a good output. So as you can see, we have all our 4 original columns and then that percent rank, and it's going to give us 0 for the highest fraud score in California. For the second highest, it's going to be 0.01, 0.02, and so on. So it's close to 100 claims for California, I think, because these are very round percentage ranks. Yeah, because if you're third out of a list of 200, it's not going to be as even of a score. I think it's going to be 0.015 and so on. Anyways, so now basically our last column R tells us how high we are in terms of fraud score. So for example, row 3, that's going to be top 2% because the percent rank is 0.02. And now we're just going to use that to filter to the top 5%, right? Fair enough. So let's put that into parentheses for now, check the output again, or our task again. Our output should be policy number, state, claim cost, and fraud score. So we shouldn't include R, where we just calculated. So we're just going to once again write these out. Policy num, state, claim cost, fraud score from that temporary table we just created, and say that percent rank should be lower than lower or equal to 0.05, because that means it's in the top 5%. Okay, I just tried to run, but I remembered we need an alias for our table, our temporary table. We just need to give this one a name. Let's say ranks. And yeah, that gives us very high fraud scores for each state. So we have 5 for California, we have 5 for Florida, 5 for New York, 6 for Texas, so there must have been more than 100 fraud claims or claims for Texas. And yeah, let's check if that works. It is accepted, fair enough. So as you can see, we didn't need much code, we just needed to know that there's a way to calculate percentiles or the percentage rank for all SQL dialects and how to use this with window functions. You could also use the entile function that basically lets you look at this like a histogram, and you say, I want to have 10 buckets in my histogram, and I only want to get these that are in the highest bucket number 1. And yeah, that would make them the top 10% because you divide it into 10 buckets, right? So you're going to get the bucket number, then you're going to be able to filter on which kind of buckets you want. In this case, I could do entile 20, divided into 20 buckets, which means each of these are going to do I'm going to cover 5% and then filter to the highest bucket and say, I think it's 1, or that's the numbering, and that way it would filter to only those in the highest histogram bucket being the top 5%. This works too. Perfect. There's another function. I'm going to go through these. Not in this video, I think. I'm just going to link this, and you're able to use this function as well, which tells you how many values in that list are less than or equal than a specified value. Anyways, just take a look at this page and look at that example that gives you values based on the score here. And you're going to be able to understand how, these are the buckets, percentage rank, this score, and how they differ. I think that's going to be it for this question. Very interesting one. Netflix is known to basically only hire senior engineers and analysts, so this could be a question you're facing for Netflix. It is harder than what you usually have because they don't usually ask about percentiles, but it's not a very complicated and long question. Anyways, that's been it for me today. I'm going to link to this exact question on StrataScratch, so you're going to be able to try out the different functions mentioned on this page and play around with it and see which one works best for you and whether you're able to understand the differences. And yeah, I'm going to leave a link down in the description and link to the actual question now. I used to just link to the StrataScratch platform, but now I'm going to try linking to the exact problem so you don't have to search for it. That's going to be it for me today. See you next time.